Rick Probstein tried to gamble a little bit out at the National this year by grading 31 PSA 10 Jordans out at BGS. I'm going to take you through what the results of this were for him, but also a very interesting topic associated with some of these cards actually being decertified by PSA that not many people are going to talk about. Now, I've already briefly touched on this at some point in the channel where I talked to this in my weekly news video and how some of this information hadn't been confirmed, but it's now been confirmed that Rick Probstein crossed over these 31 cards and not one of those managed to get a BGS Pristine 10, i.e. the black label, which is what he was trying to do. And obviously not one of those exists, so had one of these, crossed over, it would have been a big thing for the industry and would have had a clear card head and shoulders above the rest when it comes to the Michael Jordan rookie cards. Now, this is interesting for a few reasons because we spoke about this the other day once again when it came to people trying to play pop reports against each other. And one of the things that I've always found really weird with situations like this is somebody, taking a very popular card, i.e. one of these 31 cards, sending it to BGS, and all of a sudden it gets a black label. I've always found it a little bit confusing how, people that would be then prospective buyers for that black label, i.e. ready to pay a premium, would pay that premium knowing that it was a PSA 10 in the past, right? And we've seen this a lot when it comes to people, sending cards in that were PSA 8s or 9s that all of a sudden turn to PSA 10s. It's like, if they are a popular card, a serial numbered card, not in this instance, but a popular card nonetheless that people have seen on the internet and been able to see in the slab, etc. From my personal opinion, seeing that prior 8 or 9 in it, or, in this instance, if it did get a black label, the PSA 10 label, almost taints it for me. So it almost defeats the purpose, but I'm just constantly shocked at how people don't think like that and are ready to pay the premiums had this actually got a black label. Now, if one of these did, sure, I think that would have happened. It would have reached a new height for the price, but at the same time, it's a pretty interesting one. Now, the thing I want to talk about regarding the cards being decertified, M&T Trading on Twitter and as well as Auburn35 did a bit of an assessment, and they essentially identified that of the 31 cards, I believe it's 3 of them have been decertified at some point by PSA. Now, this doesn't mean that the cards that Rick owns himself are, the ones that are in fact fake. It just indicates that somebody has used that certification number, on a fake Jordan and has been reported to PSA in the past, which is, a pretty interesting one. I'm not sure if those ones in questions will be getting regraded by PSA once again, or what's essentially going to happen with those, but it's just a strange one that you've got a guy with a pretty big collection, a pretty big platform, knowingly still owning Michael Jordan rookie cards in PSA 10 slabs that have been decertified, and he's not done anything about it. That raises a lot of questions in my opinion, and might indicate that maybe Rick owns the one that is the questionable one, and that's why he's not corrected it with PSA. I think it's pretty interesting. I'm really keen, to get your thoughts on that down in the comments below. But just overall, this is a really weird thing about people trying to play pop reports against each other. I don't understand how, you want to try and gamble in that position, because from my perspective, the prospective buyer is still going to look at the card as if it was in the old label, or at least that's my approach, right? I never understood this playing the game kind of thing. And it's also pretty weird where you've got BGS maybe being extra critical in this instance, right? Because I just touched on that, me being a buyer, right, seeing a PSA 8 or a 9 that then crosses to a 10, I'm not going to pay a PSA 10 price in that instance. I'm going to still treat it as if it's a PSA 8 or 9, which is a bit silly, but that's how my mind goes, like I just explained. But from BGS's perspective, because I'm also looking at it and seeing it publicly, BGS might think the same way. Well, hang on a minute. These 31 Jordans are out there in the wild. There's plenty of photographs. People know they are PSA 10s. They're so famously PSA 10s. This one could cross over to a pristine black label, but we're not going to cross it over because it's so publicly known that it was a PSA 10 that people might nitpick and then say, well, this shouldn't have got a black label from you guys, BGS. What the heck are you doing? That's sort of the mindset that I think BGS probably looked at this as well. And it's always, why you need to be extra careful when you're trying to do crossover attempts and all that sort of stuff, because those are the things that would be going through the grader's head, going through the grader's mind when they're trying to make a decision or not on whether to upgrade your card. And you can say, okay, well then don't send it in slab because you're never going to have good luck doing that. I agree with that. But even with, some serial numbered cards, the same sort of thing could be happening, right? The grader, if they wanted to, especially if it was a high-end card, do a quick Google and say that this card was in fact already in a rival third-party graded slab, that is going to drive some decision making in their mind, and it's going to create some bias, which I think has occurred here in some cases as well, because we've seen sort of recently that black labels appear to be a bit more frequent than they have in the past. So just based on how publicly known these 31 cards are, right? He had them displayed out at his booth. He's had them on his social media. He's shown them in various videos. You know, it's really easy for somebody to say that Jordan was a PSA 10. It has this minor error. How did it get the BGS black label? That would have been, you know, driving some of their decision making as well. I know I just spoke a heck of a lot. I was sort of all over the place, but that's how my mind is going right now. It's really busy for me at work, so I do apologize for that. But I'm just a bit scatterbrained these last couple of weeks. But it's just an interesting one. And just to go back to those cards that, you know, have been decertified, check out this thread for yourself so you can sort of read it in detail. But it's just pretty crazy for me. And essentially what PSA do with some of these cards that they do decertify is they'll specify exactly why, right? In this specific instance, the certification number provided has been temporarily deactivated as a precaution due to its use on a known counterfeit in the market. Please contact the customer request center if you own the item. So given, like I said, that Rick, you know, owns these cards, right? And 3 of them are deactivated. It seems a bit strange that he hasn't already gone to PSA and got a new, you know, slab and label put on them, right? That's the immediate thing I would be doing, especially if I wanted to try and, you know, maintain some value with my collection. Now, yes, he's a very wealthy individual. Yes, he's got a lot of connections with high-end collectors that'll communicate with him before he goes to buy the card, or they'll have questions, so they'll talk to him. But from a business practice perspective, from operating the most efficiently and effectively, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to not do anything about it. So maybe, you know, maybe he will, now that the rejection has come from BGS, maybe he will go to PSA and say, can you please, you know, reslab this and relabel it and remove the old certification from your pop report? But I'm just a little shocked that it hasn't happened yet. So please, you know, share your thoughts on that down in the comments below. Again, I do apologize. I'm sort of all over the place with this one, but it's just, you know, pretty interesting to go 0-31, which was no surprise to me at all. Like, my gut feeling would be that BGS wouldn't touch this at all for the reasons that I've already previously explained in this video. It's just a funny attempt. I like the idea of him trying to do something like that, because I think it would be really cool to see a black label Michael Jordan rookie card. But I think if one does come ever, it's going to be a card that's not already graded. Now, does that mean somebody's going to crack one and, you know, trim one or whatever? Maybe, but that's just where my thinking is going. So I hope you liked the video today. Please let me know your thoughts, you know, down in the comments below, on what you thought about Rick's attempt to try and do this. I think it was kind of cool from a buzz perspective within the hobby, but at the same time, I don't think anybody really truly cares, and I don't think anybody is truly surprised with the whole thing. It just comes back to what we discussed the other day about pop reports and playing them against each other. Like, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really work, because if you are a collector that wants to buy things, or even if you are an investor, right, you need to be switched on to this kind of thing and not be exposed to that kind of mistake, right? You need to be aware of what's in each pop report. You need to be aware if a card you want to buy for your collection, or a card for, you know, investing, has been a PSA 9 before, right? You need to be across that, because, you know, switched on buyers are going to be asking those kinds of questions or doing that kind of research to make sure that's not the case before they do in fact buy the card. And if you're not doing that, you're selling yourself short and exposing yourself to people like me going to buy your card and saying, well, mate, I'm not going to pay the premium because of its history, right? Those are the questions you should be asking when you're going about, you know, buying cards for your collection, when you're going about investing. So another mini tangent there at the end. Hope you liked the video. Drop your thoughts down below, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.